Greetings, welcome to Tifa's Tarot, and I hope you're doing well wherever you are in the world. Today we're going to go ahead and continue our journey through the tarot, and we are starting with card number 13. This card comes directly after the Hangman in the Rider-Waite Tarot deck, okay? And a lot of people have a lot of negative connotations about this card. I'd say it's one of the most feared cards in the deck, as well as one of the most misinterpreted cards as well. So what we're going to do in this video is we're going to look at what this card means in the upright position. We'll look at some of the symbols that can help you to remember what this card means. We'll also take a look at what it means if we're talking about a general reading, if it comes up if you're talking about love, and what it means if you are talking about your career and finances. And finally, just from a general spiritual perspective, what does this card mean when it is pulled in the upright position, okay? So first, this card is the unlucky number 13, right? Or at least in Western societies, that is our unlucky number, okay? I'm not going to really get into why 13s are unlucky, but 13s are actually like kind of a misinterpreted number too as well, because 1 plus 3 is equal to 4, right? Which is actually a card of things being stable, right? Which is really what death gives to, okay? Death gives to stability as part of an inevitable order, okay? So in this card, zodiologically, death is associated with the sign of Scorpio, okay? Scorpio is the only sign in the zodiac that is actually ruled by 2 planets, okay? Scorpio is ruled by Mars, and it's also ruled by Pluto. So how it manifests its Mars energy, Scorpio manifests its Mars energy by being very assertive and really asserting themselves, especially in a very sexual manner. Anyone who knows a Scorpio knows that they operate with a very smoldering, underlining, sexy energy, right? So they have a very Mars energy in that way. However, Scorpio, nobody scraps like a Scorpio either. And Scorpio is the sign of rebirth and redeath, okay? So rebirth and death and transformation. So that is hardlined to Pluto power, right? Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth and transformations, right? Whether that's on a mental, physical, or psychological level, okay? It kind of like highlights that with the Scorpio sign, okay? So those are the 2 planets for that. Let's look closely at the imagery here, okay? So we've got a skeleton riding a white horse, holding a black and white flag with a rose on it, and we've got these characters who are here begging for mercy, right? And one who is already deceased, right? That have that death has assumingly taken, okay? But what does this all mean? So what this card means is the skeleton represents the last. It's like the skeleton is basically the last remaining piece of our organic matter on the human body, right? It's the last thing to kind of dissipate. So it kind of represents going beyond a physical death in that sense, right? And as you can see, the skeleton is also wearing a suit of armor. So that's an insinuation that there is an invincibility surrounding death, okay? It's all that nothing can really be destroyed from death coming, right? Nothing can stop death from coming, okay? The white horse, and we see the white horse a few more times in the Major Arcana deck, but here it's really meant to represent purity in a sense, right? It's like the white horse represents purity. It's this kind of used to transport death on this inevitable mission, right? That death is on. And it's purifying it in the process, right? Because death is a purification process in a way. It clears out the old and it brings in the new, okay? And we say the new, we're not talking about people, we're talking about ideas or relationships or jobs or whatever problems that we're having, right? There has to be an end to something for a new situation to begin, okay? Let's look also at the flag. So we've got the black flag in the back, right? So black kind of represents the darkness of that death kind of brings. But we also have, in contrast with this white flower, right, or a rose, And white is attributed with like the purity, right? So the roses you can count. There are 5 petals that are on this rose. The number 5 is meant to signify change. Okay, so he's really just holding a flag that's meant to symbolize that darkness comes before purity, and or vice versa. They're all a cycle. Okay. We've got an assortment of characters here, right? We've got a pope-like figure, bishop, I believe, a young woman, and a baby. They're all basically begging death for mercy, right? But death doesn't care because death comes for everybody. Death has even come for this king that is here that you can see who has been laid down, right? He has also died. So death does not discriminate, and it has no mercy on anybody or any soul, okay? Everyone has to go through a death. Everyone has to go through changes, right? And that's kind of what this card represents. In the far back, you're able to see a boat that is on water. So this boat is meant to signify the passage into the afterlife or transition, right? Or changes, okay? So I think the last thing to kind of notice in this card is also looking at the sun. So the sun is peeking out between these 2 towers, right? And towers are a very prevalent symbol in tarot as well. So what this kind of represents is that uh, as the sun goes down, right? So it looks like the sun is going down. When the sunset, darkness rises, and then a new day comes after that. So it's like darkness or the night is the death, right? And with a new day is a promise, right? If you are promised that, right? We all don't make it into the new day. So if we're lucky enough to awake. So let's talk about what this means if it's in a general reading, okay? So even though this card is very feared, it's not an actual scary card, right? It comes after the Hangman, which is a period of a long pause, right, that we talked about before, of flailing around or being in limbo. So this comes afterwards to force a change. It's also an inaction card, but it's a card of a forced change in some way. It could signify rebirth, transformations. It can signify things happening in a sudden or unexpected way, right? That brings an ultimate end to something. So, like I said, it's also a waiting card, so to speak, but it really shows that, like, no matter how much you wait, there's going to be an inevitable end to things that are going to bring a change in a situation. So, the best thing to do when you see this card is to try to embrace the fresh start that death brings, right? Because whether you like it or not, it's coming, right? It doesn't matter how you feel about it. So, though, it could be a shock to you when this card comes up, you need to be able to really kind of see the big picture and know that sometimes things are inevitable for changes, necessary changes to happen in life, right? So let's say if we're talking about in a love reading and this appears. So this could mean if you are in a relationship and let's say things are going fantastic and you guys are like great and this comes up, this could mean that there's a death to the current state of the relationship. So big changes are coming up. This could take the form of an engagement, so maybe moving the relationship to another level. This could come in the form of unexpected pregnancy, right? It's just meaning the death of an old partnership, of how things have been for a while, and changing into a new dynamic of a partnership, okay? It could also mean if things are not going well in your relationship, okay? This could mean that there's it could mean that a lot of changes kind of need to be made and they're not being made to foster a healthy relationship. So if you don't fix whatever, if you don't identify what the problems are and fix them, there's going to be an end to this. So this can also be the card of a divorce, like a split in a relationship, so to speak, as well. So you have to kind of decide from the other cards that surround this, the clarifying cards, what this means for your particular situation, okay? So is it a positive change, right? And a change of relationship going up a level, right? Or is it an inevitable dismissal of a partnership. Okay, so it's up for you to decide that part. Let's say if you are talking about your career and your finances, so this could be that you are maybe being a little too dependent on your job at this time, right? Or your current job, and whether you like it, a change might be coming. And so, like, you're really being asked at this time to kind of get with the program and maybe get used to some changes that are upcoming. So, if you're starting a business and this comes up, it's really time for you. This could signify that maybe you're like a little bit reluctant to do things in some way, and is asking you to really kind of change what is necessary for the success of your business. Either way, kind of this means that a change is coming, right, in your career or your business in some way. If we're speaking financially and this appears, this is showing that your money manners might be getting a little tight, right? You might be a little tight with your money right now, and you might be maybe looking at a loss of income or some money. You might be have taken a big hit financially, so to speak. So this is really asking you to be realistic. It might be uncomfortable, but you need to make some practical adjustments to your finances to get back ahead. Remember, money is energy, it's an ebb and flow. It comes and it goes, so plan accordingly. Finally, if this shows up and it is in a spiritual, you're talking about any spiritual endeavors, right? This is a card of spiritual death, so to speak. It's a time where it's important to dig really deep and to kind of peel back some of the layers of trying to get to know your higher self, right? So don't fear any practices that you are attracted to intuitively in some way. Pay attention to like what's coming to you, of how you could heal in some way, okay? So it's asking you to go forward and to awaken your spiritual calling that you might have in any way. This card can also be pretty monumental for anyone who's going through a period of grief or heartbreak in any way. It's kind of asking you that even though you're in a difficult transition at this time, give yourself some time to process what your new reality is going to look like during this grief period or during this period of heartbreak, and try to embrace your new reality and the changes that are leading you to basically your new life, okay? So even though this card does not always have positive connotations, it actually mostly does not. It is a card for us to kind of meditate and think about all of those changes that come in our lives, and maybe not to fight them so much, right? But to treat them and welcome them in some ways so that we can look forward more to our future, not really cling too much about like what's happening presently that might be negative in that way, okay? So I hope this helped for anyone who is studying tarot and you wanted to know more information about the death card and the upright position. I hope this was helpful for you. Have a good day.